I am Dr. Krishna Prasad, KP for short. That's my call sign, literally. I'm an anesthetist intensivist. I trained at PGI Chandigarh a long time ago and continued to work in anesthesia. I worked in England and did my FARCA, and I'm a CCST holder. I worked for a brief period as a consultant in England before I came back to India and continued to practice anesthesia and intensive care. I have been publishing various things in intensive care as well as in anesthesia. But my forte has been technology and understanding technology and how it works in monitoring patients and helping in the continuum of care of patients and in their diagnosis. I started working on the concept of e-access telemedics for nearly 3 years before we registered this company and found my co-founder. And we intend to become the largest monitoring company in the world. And that's what we do, monitoring and treating people with the data that we achieve and get from monitoring. E-access telemedics, which is going to be the largest monitoring company in the world, will benefit hospitals, not just patients, because your patients can be treated in your hospitals and you don't have to transport them to another center thinking that you don't have the facilities. We will provide the medical and technical expertise that is needed to monitor these patients after major surgeries or when they have slightly deteriorating in the intensive care unit. That is the philosophy of e-access telemedics.
My name is Satyadev Adurti. I'm more than 32 years of experience in the information technology industry. And all my life, I've actually done the technology for any business which is on spread. So the spread business is one of the major activities which I've done. And the technology which I use is to ensure that a command center based monitoring centers which we created for both telecom as well as now we are doing it for the hospitals. E-access telemedics is mainly focusing on connecting various hospitals or various home-based environments, home-based patients to the central command center to provide support to the local doctors as well as the patients through our command center where the doctors are present 24/7 basis. We want to be the world's largest monitoring company with the one objective of ensuring the technology is available anywhere, everywhere, all the time.
Namaste. Greetings from Solvencis. Solvencis is a hybrid consulting company. We are based out of Mumbai and we service various industries, right from food and beverages to oil and natural gas. Today at this podcast, we have a distinguished guest with us, the founders of e-access Telemedics Private Limited. I am Caleb Masih, Director, Innovative Businesses at Solvencis. So let's welcome Dr. Krishna Prasad, fondly called as Dr. KP, and Mr. Satyadev Adurti from e-access Telemedics Private Limited. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you. So, Dr. Prasad, they say that surgeon is the main captain of the ship, but the one who keeps the ship afloat is the anesthetist. In your more than 3 decades of practice, do you feel that the dynamics has changed in the Indian operating terms?
Yes, it is. It's completely changed. Because earlier, when anesthesia first started, anesthetists were not even qualified. People would just step in and pour some ether on somebody, but it has evolved and it's become a very, very complex and how do we put it, scientific. It's no longer an art; it's science. A lot of money has gone into developing this science, and of course, the reach is technology. The amount of technology that has been brought into anesthesia has just made anesthesia safer and the outcomes better. And especially after the digitization of data that has happened in operating theaters and the way data has been stored and analyzed, we get to know what mistakes we are doing in anesthesia and what are the long-term effects of anesthesia on patients, which we were not aware of.
Nice.
Patients, what we are doing are these is it having an impact on their lives in the future? Or is it anesthesia just an episodic thing that happened in there? This we are learning more and more. And this is entirely because of digitization and connecting equipment to servers and able to analyze the data and bring it out. So now anesthesia is most not just giving anesthesia, it's perioperative medicine that you actually build the patient to make them good enough for surgery. For example, when I was training in anesthesia in PGI Chandigarh and in Omni Institute, it was very rare to get a 90-year-old to be operated upon. Either they were not living till 90, or even if they're 90, people didn't want to operate on them. But in the hospital where I work, every week we operate on 88, 90-year-old regularly, 90 plus. So the skills have changed.
So you have touched upon your residency days, in PGI. So do you think there's any modern equipment which is available today, which is taken for granted, and you wish that equipment would have been with you during that days?
I'll term it differently.
Okay.
Equipment was available, but it was so expensive that it was not affordable. Now, equipment is available relatively cheap or affordable now.
Okay.
So people have started using it to the extent that you will question the lack of that equipment inside the operating theatre. For example, measuring carbon dioxide that comes out of the patient, measuring the oxygen levels in your blood. All these things were exotic stuff. We had only one equipment, which we used to share amongst 20 theatres. And now every theatre, operation theatre has it. So that, rather than new equipment, I think the impact has been the availability and the affordability of it. So now it is no longer an excuse for a hospital to say that this equipment is expensive, we can't have it.
So, but you must have had multiple surgeries, difficult to count also in all this more than 3 decades of experience. And they say that surgery is a team sport, but anesthetist job is a solo game. Do you feel any moment you had in your career that where you are alone?
Yes, when there are always times when things don't go perfectly well with patients on table. That time you are fighting a battle. But fortunately for me, I always worked in an environment where I had colleagues who are very good and they're available to help out. And the essence of this whole thing is to plan and to anticipate that a particular case can be difficult and gather the amount of team around, so that you're not fighting a solo battle anymore.
So, Dr. Naik, to be precise, it has been 39 plus years you have been into.
Yes, near 39.
Yes.
From the day I started training till now.
You always protected patients within the 4 walls of the operation theatre. So, usually after this period, the clinicians plan their retirement and other things. What was the tipping point, that make you realize that you need to build e-access telemedics so that you can protect the patients outside the operation theatre?
Well, throughout, what happened was in hospitals, anesthetists got involved with a little time before the surgery was due, during the surgery, and a short time after the surgery was over, and the patients were discharged. But anesthesia, one of the cornerstones of anesthesia is monitoring the patient. So if you don't monitor, you won't know what's wrong.
So you mean to say if the patient is out of the hospital, it's totally unmonitored?
Yes, it is. From a fantastic care that is monitored every minute to minute in the operating theatres, to a slightly longer period in the intensive care, to still longer periods in the wards,
And then go home.
and then go home where there is no monitoring. So when you do major surgeries, the effect of the surgery and the pre-existing conditions of the patient has an effect even after they go home. So I always felt that we are not doing the right thing by sending those patients home. In fact, there are a lot of studies have shown that monitoring, if you keep if you monitor the patients for a longer period of time, you catch more problems that have happened and the outcomes are better.
So, Mr. Satyadev, you decided to build a master command center in Hyderabad to monitor the patients who are located in remote locations. How does this vision came to you?
Basically, the objective which was set is whatever data is seen at the bedside, the doctor has to visualize the same thing at the command center. To ensure the communication is successful and the data is coming to the command center continuously, we have ensured that the command center is fully equipped with technology that helps the data movement smooth without any much of loss of data.
Nice. By communication network, you mean to say the service providers, like the network providers?
Yes, we need to have multiple service providers working simultaneously so that there is no way the data is lost while transiting.
Fair. That should be a prerequisite for...
Absolutely. Could be a good command center to have.
Dr. KP, we know that the tier 2 and tier 3 cities have a shortage of intensivists. And how does the EXS Telemedics remote ICU model replicate the same kind of safety and protection which is being given by a metro city hospital or a corporate hospital in a very remote town?
Good question. Yes, first of all, acknowledge there is a shortage of intensivists in the country. And that has been acknowledged time and again by the government as well as the Society for Critical Care Medicine. A lot of attempts are being made to train intensivists so that they can rise to the occasion. We have to understand that critical care medicine is a super specialty. It is done after nearly 6 years of medical training. Only certain specialties can do intensive care following their post-graduation. So that puts a lot of burden. And after training, most of the intensivists gravitate towards the metros. I think that allows them to use the skills that they have acquired during their training. And in the process, tier 2 cities suffer. Eventually, they will reach that point when needs are required. But there is definitely a shortage. So they are making do or transferring patients to metros and other secondary tertiary care hospitals. In this process, there are delays to the patient. The costs have increased, and there are certain costs which are creeping costs which are not taken into account. They are not medical costs, like the person, their family moving to the city to support, and the ancillary costs acquired by them. And after intensive care, sometimes the patient cannot immediately go back to their hometown. They have to stay in the ward over there and then get transferred to a rehab center. From there, they go home. So there is this huge amount of costs that are there. But all this can be mitigated if we can actually... It's not that the tier 2, tier 3 cities don't have doctors. They still look after their patients quite well. But it's the complexity and the delta of a very good quality care to this care that is the problem. So tele-intensive care and the command center does not replace the doctors on site. What it does, it complements their care. So even if you have a junior doctor looking after patients in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, a senior consultant, trained intensivist, sitting at the command center can see the patient, the vitals, and guide them and establish certain protocols and see that things are happening correctly. And because this monitoring is occurring 24 hours around the clock by doctors at the command center, the care of the patient is not suffering. We can always be seen. Because many patients in the intensive care unit in tier 2, tier 3 cities, many of the doctors multitask. They go to the OPD, they come back to the ICU. So continuity of care sometimes is missing. So this command center provides that 24-hour care so that gaps don't exist. So what is known as an overview of what is happening of various patients, or let us say there are 3 patients in an intensive care unit, 2 patients are doing okay and 1 patient is very sick. The doctor is so involved with that sick patient, the other 2 patients may not be getting optimal care. So we can look after these 2 patients. So it will not completely remove the doctor from the intensive care. It cannot and will not.
Yeah, because we have always seen that the critics always criticize that the human touch is lost in the world of digitization or maybe a remote ICU. But here, what I could gather what you are saying is that the clinical vigilance is continuously there under a senior intensivist. So that makes a difference, and that makes a difference why e-access telemedics score over any other.
It's not just about doctors. Let us face it, in intensive care, most of the care is given by nurses.
Yes.
And in the command center that we have, you have a senior nurse who has been trained in intensive care, always on spot to actually talk to the nurses there. So nurses talk to nurses better than doctors talking to nurses. So they can establish and talk to them and understand their problems and help them, guide them, because they have been through that process to come up to this level. So the command center is not just restricted to a senior intensivist sitting there and commanding other people to do things. No, he works along with the local team, along with the nurse there, works along with the local nurses there. And in the process, those little nurses, younger nurses who are there get trained of protocols, of processes. For example, if there are no patients, the senior nurse actually teaches them about, let us say, hand wash techniques or hygiene, how to look after an intravenous line, such things. So the command center is not just about monitoring patients. It is a means of a continuous process of vigilance, looking after patients, maintaining a constant touch and educating those people.
That's a wonderful perspective.
This is the whole idea about having a command center.
There is like nurse to nurse connect, also with connect between the junior doctor to junior doctor and
Senior
then
doctor to junior doctor.
So that's the way it actually links, so that the patient gets overall cover of care, which helps them to recover faster and move out of the intensive care to the ward to home will become much more smoother. That's what we are trying to achieve in this.
But it's not, the command center not just doesn't look after intensive care. If the patient is shifted out to the ward, the patient there can be monitored by the command center too.
That's nice.
So you have a transition of care. So you don't go from a fantastic, in a scale of 0 to 10 of having a 10 scale monitoring to a 2 scale monitoring. There's intermittent 4 also.
And then a holistic approach.
Yes, absolutely.
That's the reason what we are saying in the EACS command center is we have emergency medicine team, we have intensive care team, we also have team for monitoring people from any other location within the hospital or outside the hospital. We can give a continuous end-to-end care for the patients, whether it is wherever part of the value chain is there. So that's where our key strength comes in, and people prefer to come to us to do the business with us.
So, Dr. KP, having understood your master command center concept, your website also mentions that the critical care starts before hospital arrival via ambulance monitoring. Is this a missing link in India's trauma care?
Yes, it is. When an event occurs to a patient, and for example, the patient needs to come to the hospital. Let us say the patient has been sick at home. It was so common during COVID. The patient was at home becoming sicker. They had to come to the hospital. And in between, what happened? Nobody knew, because the patient, somebody used to sit with a PPE gown inside the back of the ambulance and they used to shift the patient. So we never knew what happened during that time as a continuum. And so the receiving hospital did not know what was happening. The same thing occurs when let us say there has been a trauma and it has been picked up by an ambulance. So we can actually train the ambulance technicians to set up the basic monitoring that during transit all the way to the hospital, we can continuously monitor the patient, whether his blood pressure has dropped or whether he became more sicker, etc., etc. And when he arrives at the receiving hospital, at the emergency room or intensive care, we can actually collate that data and send it as a PDF or an Excel spreadsheet to the receiving hospital. So they can put it in the notes that this is what the patient was when he arrived.
So if I have to articulate it, that you are maximizing the outcomes which we are going to take out from the golden hour.
Absolutely. So most of the time, a patient's outcomes are also part of the patient's outcomes are, how do you put it, are also dependent on the data gaps. If you have a data gap, you don't know what is there, what has happened. So that we can fix, and we can fill it up and hand it over to the. So these data gaps don't occur. What happened during transport? Let us say there was an accident outside the town and the patient had to come to the middle of the city. During the entire transport of half an hour or 20 minutes or 1 hour, what happened? We don't know. So we can actually do that safely and record it. So medical legally also the receiving hospital is strengthened. But the command center is a place where data is unified from various sources. So because it is continuously manned by various levels of doctors, we can actually extend the care of this patient and provide certain services which may not be available locally to that hospital. So you actually, it's like if Muhammad can't come to the mountain has to come to Muhammad. So if the intensivist specialist cannot come to the hospital, the patient data comes to the specialist who can actually look at it and answer the patient.
That is nicely said, Dr. KP. Okay, so we also talk about home care and even the remote OPD. Coming to the home care, we discussed that post-surgical hand-holding is equally important. Now you are going to monitor post-surgical patient right after his discharge to home and his again visit to the hospital. Now there are certain times where the cases go out of control, and even after discharge, there is a readmission required.
Yes.
What happens in such cases, and how does e-access telemedics come into it?
What we do is that when a patient is discharged from a hospital, let's say, had a major surgery and they are discharged home, we can actually monitor the patients, all the vital signs. It's not putting a monitor there and taking photographs of the screen and sending it to a doctor. What we do is live streaming of all the vital signs data that come to a command center. So if you can predict certain problems are occurring to the patient. And we can actually tell them that, look, you need to go to the hospital now. Don't delay. So if the general tendency is maybe everything will become all right because the patient has been discharged from home. We have to understand that older and older patients are getting operated these days with various medical problems, and they need to be monitored after surgery. This is an interesting statistic which I would like to add here. The third commonest cause, maximum number of deaths that happen in the United States after road traffic accidents and cancer is post-operative deaths.
Oh, and that is what we are touching.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is what we don't know, the statistic. People keep coming back to the casualty, to their hospital. Imagine that patient has gone home to some other distant place. By the time they come, it will be too late. We can provide that monitoring for a few days so that till things settles down. And that also gives a calming effect to the patient that somebody is still looking after me. I am not at the care of God.
So, Dr. KP, patients always or many times feel abandoned, the moment they're out of the exit gate of hospital. They think, who is there to take care of? So does your tele-OPD or the remote OPD addresses this concern that they're continuously under the monitoring of?
Yes, absolutely. See, it's not, what I said is that the command center need not be fixed at one point of time. one place. We can raise the command center to the sky, in the sense that a specialist doctor can actually log in to the command center, access the data that is coming from the patient, and also address the patient directly, maybe with a camera. We have the provision of creating, able to actually reach the patient through remote camera systems by their consent, of course, and talk to the patient and examine and put the vital signs together and see if everything is okay or not. So, this is about, for example, follow ups of a patient after surgery. And this can be done. And not only that, what many places need specialist services. So they need an OPD consultation or a specialist consultation. So that can be achieved from our command center or the extended command center, which we can actually bring to the hospitals or the doctor's desktop.
Yeah.
That can be achieved, and we have done it, and we are doing that.
And the prescription gets generated.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no problem.
So nowadays we see a lot of challenges in terms of generating of e-prescription.
See, e-prescription is not an issue because there are clear guidelines how e-prescription should be made. And we just follow the format. That is good enough.
That is.
And the software also sees that when you write a medication, you also get the pharmaceutical name of it, the generic name of it.
Okay.
So it's not an issue.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Because an example which you need to take it from there, doing it there. One of the hospital in North India is located in the Uttar Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh of Uttar Pradesh, is doing this activity exactly for the patients who are high net worth individuals. Okay. Post discharge, getting monitored, patients coming back, ensuring that the outcomes are good, and monitoring is happening while they are in the transit or while they are.
And the monitoring is not like a big monitor sitting on the bedside. It's actually a tiny palm-sized thing which you put onto the belt of the patient or the sling, and it's like, say, it transmits live data. It's live streaming of data.
Nice. It's more like a big boss of medicine, if I would have to say.
Yes, without the punishment.
Wonderfully said. So, I would say, Dr. KP and Satyadevji, that you're essentially building a hospital without walls. In real time, if you say everything is available at remote area, they do not travel. So 5 years from now, do you see e-access telemedics becoming the standard operating system for every nursing home in the remote location?
Yes. There is a strong possibility that way. Because the systems that we are developing clinically and technically is that it runs on standard operating procedures, which are not, it is fixed to that locality and local area. For example, the standard operating procedures in A city might be different from the B city. So we can actually customize it to that place depending on what the doctors want.
But the overall protocol framework is
standardized, which is accepted medically, but small tweaks can be done to customize it. It's how do you put it? It's not just saying it is the future, but it is the running future. This is the way it has to go.
And the AI and the automation is overall taking over all these standard operating procedures. And
the issue is this, that AI is dependent on data. You put in garbage, you will get out garbage. So the only way you will get data is if you have continuous monitoring. So only when you have continuous monitoring, you can feed clean data into the AI systems, whatever AI systems you use. You will feed in clean data, and that clean data can generate whatever algorithms you want to create. But what is missing now is clean data coming into AI engines.
I'm very happy to see that, having spent close to 4 decades in medicine and anesthesia, you are open for this kind of AI automation, because many of the orthodox clinicians may not be comfortable. But what you rightly said is putting the right data in to get the right output.
Absolutely.
We're happy that e-access telemedics is looking at that.
This will not remove doctors. Let us be very clear. This AI will not remove doctors. It will only complement the doctors. It will not supplement them.
So now if we have any hospital owners listening, so what is the economic argument to that? What is the cost saving than having a full-fledged ICU under their belt And instead of that, if they hire EXS Telemedics as the service provider, what kind of economic bargain work for that?
It's a, how do you put it? EXS Telemedics is not just about putting a monitor, connecting up and the command center and giving commands. No, it's not that. It is a whole bouquet of services that we provide. That your entire network is managed, your little servers are managed, your doctors that are not available are made available to you. For example, if you are working in Andhra Pradesh, we can actually connect up a doctor in Andhra Pradesh who's got an AP registration to see the patient, and there are no more boundaries anymore. So it is like what we say, the big ICU in the sky, that you can actually connect up to wherever you want. And because of the connectivity, thanks to the government, the connectivity has become so good that we can connect anything to anything. For example, we can actually monitor patients who are traveling in a train. You can imagine that a lot of people go on pilgrimages now, elderly people, and they have, there's some, if anything happens to them on the way, there's nothing to look. We can actually do that. For example, any travel company which they sell travel insurance, they can actually sell remote monitoring. The guide that takes them along can take this monitor along, and we can teach them what to do, and they can connect up and we can actually see. So in the middle of the night, if in a resort or anywhere, if somebody falls ill, they don't have to go around scrambling looking for a doctor. There's so many people are going on adventure trips in the middle of coffee estates and jungle resorts. And more elderly people are going there. And you have destination weddings, so many people having good time. But if somebody falls ill, what are you going to do? So we can provide that services there, and we can monitor those patients. And not only that, the economy lies like this. For example, if a patient has been operated, there is in a hospital, there has been a complication. Let's call it a lot of blood loss. But the patient is okay. But the surgeon needs to monitor the patient for the next 24 hours. And he does not have the confidence of the local doctor or the junior doctor to manage and see the complications. He can actually buy time from us. We can monitor the patients for 24 to 36 hours and then inform him as to what is happening, so that he's at peace. And the patient is looked after.
Clinical decision making.
He can work on this to give a clinical decision making, because he can't be at that site all the time. So we can do that. So the business doesn't just say that you completely book a total intensive care unit. You can actually have only one bed as an intensive care unit, which is connected to the tele ICU, or we can give you blocks of time. They can send a monitor there with the services, and they can monitor the patient for that next 24 hours.
That answers my question to the hospital owners. Definitely, it's cost saving to them with value added service.
Absolutely. So patients who would normally not have been operated there, who are being sent off to major tertiary cities, are being operated on site. Now, it's not just the revenue generating of that hospital. It improves the confidence of the local population that this hospital can handle these cases. Otherwise, it is, they cannot manage. They always send the patient to the city anyway.
Having heard you so long, Dr. KP, in wonderful, enriching session, one piece of advice. What is the most important lesson you have learned in the OP, which has not been found in text?
I think empathy to the patient, and communication. I think that's what I have learned over the years, to be able to communicate and to have empathy to the patient. Sympathy is feeling sorry for the patient. Empathy is to feel what the patient is feeling. So instead of feeling sorry for a patient, we actually learned empathy as we grow. That's what I have learned. This is what I have learned in the operating theatre.
Very, very, very noble thought, in fact. Nice to know this, Dr. Krishna Prasad, and KP we call that.
KP, yes, that's my call sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we have one question from behind the camera?
Yeah.
Abel, could you explain it, make it lucid for us? What would be the difference between empathy and the sympathy in a laymanistic way?
Sympathy is when you feel sorry for somebody. But you don't need to be sorry for people. You need to feel how they feel. That is what is empathy. It's like, it's a feeling that you get, oh my God. It's not that, oh my God, why is he so sad? Don't feel sad. It's about feeling
What the other person is feeling.
what the other person is feeling. I mean, not completely, to some extent.
With sympathy, you always say that boss, okay,
Mr. Satyadev, this is for you. The question is, like, you have been largely into the digital framework of EXS Telemedics. You have done various projects in your past in IT-enabled services, digitization of various modules of various organizations. So such a large legacy you carry around.
Yeah.
So for the medical fraternity or the small hospitals or nursing home owners in remote locations, what will be your message to them, if they want to use your products?
Our products and services, our technology support services will help hospital to grow and provide high-end services, high-end medical facilities from the remote location, from the command center to the remote location. So this will help the hospital to provide healthcare services to the patients at the lowest possible cost with the highest availability is what we're able to do it on 24/7 basis.
24/7. That forms the crux of
Yes.
it, 24/7 monitoring. Okay, and then you want to take EXS Telemedics to Pan India, the
Yeah.
remotest possible location of the
Yeah.
country. So, how would you like to address the potential investors? Maybe who want to join you with this journey of taking it to Pan India?
Yes, we want to go. First of all, we not only want it to be pan India, we want to be pan world
Wonderful.
as an organization. So as the journey goes now, from the states to countries to other parts of the world which we wanted to do to monitoring services. So we want investor to join with us at various stages to ensure that their inputs are also available with us and also ensure that their funding can be possibly make them double, triple their bottom line and able to get returns for it. So the exit will become much more easy for the investor community. So we will be not only putting the money into it, the exit options also will be very much wide as we are interested to go and list ourselves across the global exchanges in the world as we go along by 2030 or 2032.
That's nice, and that is quite possible. I can see, Mr. Satyadev, with your digital expertise and the clinical expertise of Dr. KP. I'm sure we'll see Access Telemedics booming, not only pan India but globally.
That's where the combination is. Our core combination between the clinical as well as technical combination is what we are actually making a difference for the healthcare community as such. The EXS will be in a position to present ourselves to do that activity so that the hospitals can get benefited by using our services.
It was wonderful to have you, Mr. Satyadev.
Can I add something here? As a co-founder, both of us had a vision the day we started that we want to be the world's largest monitoring company.
That's huge.
Now, anything in a body that can be monitored, we shall monitor. That is what has been our aim. We want to be the world's largest monitoring company. Because unless you monitor and have data, you cannot have operations. This is what is our aim, to be the world's largest monitoring company. And it's possible.
It's possible. I'm sure India will witness this, the world will witness this, that
Yes.
EXS Telemedics makes a name for itself, becomes a unicorn. That's what we look forward to. Thank you for sparing your time and being at Solvencis for this podcast, Dr. KP and Mr. Satyadev. That will be all for today. Thank you for tuning in to Solvencis. I'm Caleb Masih signing off. Keep tuned in for our next podcast on an interesting case. Thank you very much.